Good day, everyone. Richard Cowperthwait for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. Happy to have alongside today Jonathan Giroux, the chairman of the St. Albans Town Select Board. Jonathan, good to see you. It's been a while.
Good morning.
So how are things in St. Albans Town these days as we get very close to official summer? I should note we're taping this show on Tuesday, I wrote down Tuesday, June 16. How about June 17? Does that sound better?
Yeah.
I think we're talking Tuesday, June 17. Official summer checking in Friday night, but nice to get some decent weather for a few days.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Yeah, we well needed some sunshine.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, pretty rainy springtime.
Yeah.
Town doing okay these days?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we're doing the farmers market. That's fired up.
Great event. As I've said before, whoever thought about, kicking in music with that, great decision.
Yeah.
I thought a bit of it last Thursday.
Yeah, there seems to be a few more vendors down there.
Yeah.
I haven't officially walked around there yet, but
Yeah.
I'm going to try to make it there this week.
Yeah. Nope, good to see that again. Mentioning Bay Day off here, that's not too far away.
Mm.
Again, from July 4th is a Friday, so sometime that weekend anyway.
Yeah.
But sounds like the usual great race, fireworks, and
Yep.
music, I'm sure.
Yep. I think there's a few bands playing that day, actually.
Yeah. Any new development, anything, breathtakingly new in the town? Any surprising or new development? You have a new public works director.
Yes, we do. I haven't officially met the guy yet.
Has he started?
He has started.
Yeah.
Dave Allerton, the past director.
And he had high praise for Dave. Dave did a great
Dave
job.
did a great job. I'm glad he came on board with us for those couple years he was with
Yeah.
us. I mean, he helped get our stormwater program up and running.
Yeah.
And started our first one of the bigger stormwater projects that's been looming over the town for years and years, which is the Tanglewood project. That had some road bumps. It's not officially finished yet. It was started last fall, but hopefully it'll be finished by this fall.
So making progress on
Making
that?
progress. Yeah, there's a lot of water over there coming from different sources, and we're trying to deal with water off the Sash, and it's just
Wow.
a couple of the rain events we had so far. There was some issues with the pond.
Yeah.
They're not done yet, so I'm confident that the engineers on the project are going to figure out a solution so the pond doesn't overflow and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And we're not going to walk away from it, left a mess. We're going to make sure it works before
Yeah.
we walk away.
And again, that's been an issue for years over there, right? Just water issues over in Tanglewood.
Yeah. If you drive through Tanglewood, you can see on like the north side that goes along the Sash. There's the water's constantly coming in over there. Even you could probably drive by there today and you'll probably see it just pouring in.
Really?
Yeah.
And in retrospect, to some of the houses that were built there, in retrospect, some of the shouldn't have even built as many, or can you say that about areas like that, or?
I don't know if that's necessarily the case.
Yeah.
I don't think a lot of consideration went into the existing stormwater runoff that was already there.
Yeah.
Like say along the Sash, what was happening with it, and
Yeah.
I think people made some assumptions and figured out those assumptions weren't right.
Yeah. Well, I think of it, big meeting going on in Canada. I guess President Trump left early because of maybe the Iran-Israeli thing, but just curious, maybe just anecdotally, are you noticing just less Canadian traffic in the town? That certainly seems to be the case whenever I read about folks across, places across the border, but I'm not sure it'd be hard to get a good handle on that.
Yeah, I don't really have a good handle on
Yeah.
it. I mean, it's hard to gauge. I still have customers, in my plumbing and heating business that they're still come over, but I wouldn't really call it like people that are just coming over to buy stuff. You know what I mean? They come here no matter what.
Yeah. Sounds like it's an issue, but hard to, I guess, nail that
Hard
down.
to gauge.
The old town hall, former town hall, any news to report on that? You've been trying to sell it.
Yeah, the old town
The old
hall.
town
so
hall.
so last night at the select board meeting,
Yeah.
I gave the 30-day notice
Huh.
that we will be selling the town hall. We close on it on July 27th or 28th.
Really?
Yeah, we sold it to Mitch Montang for $175,000.
Mitch, who had been interested in it before.
Yeah, he was
also.
interested in before, and
Huh.
there were some legal things that we didn't do right, so we started fresh, and
Huh,
Mitch was one of the offers that seemed to be the best fit.
interesting. His plans for it,
I guess the first floor is possibly going to be some light commercial of some sort.
huh,
I don't know if it's like a bakery or a salon or something like that.
Interesting.
He just said light commercial, and then the upstairs is going to be an apartment or so.
yeah, interesting.
Nothing too,
Yeah,
extravagant. Nothing.
but you'll take some use out of it. You get a few bucks out of it.
Yeah, we get a few bucks, and it's it's going to bring some a little bit of added value to the downtown. It'll get it back on the
Yeah,
grand list,
Yeah.
which that's always a good thing too.
Yeah.
So, and better than letting a building sit there vacant. If that's the worst thing for a building is just to sit there, with
Yeah.
nobody in there, nobody watching things, and
you surprised? You surprised there wasn't more interest in it, or not? Not particularly.
well,
I know septic's always been an
it's
issue.
always about septic. Anytime
Yeah.
you go down in the Bay
Yeah.
Area or
Yeah.
St. Albans for that, it's just the soil. The soil's so heavy,
Yeah.
full of clay, like it just retains its water.
Yeah,
That's the issue. Like if you had water and sewer in there,
yeah.
I would expect that building went for at least $500,000.
Interesting.
Because it was it 6,900 square feet or something like that? I
Yeah.
think.
Interesting.
It's a fairly large building. And it's not in that
Yeah.
bad a shape, and it's brick. It's brick with
Yeah.
a slate roof. Like that's the best construction type you can possibly get. If you
Yeah.
want a 50-year building, you want brick. you
Yeah.
know?
Speaking of water sewer, some talk about at some point maybe getting water sewer or sewer lines extended to the bay. Does that come up much, or not? Not much at this point.
Yeah, well, with the new chip program that the
Yeah.
state has passed, I still got to go through rulemaking and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I think that that's a possibility, because the way the town, the way it is right now in the town, we wouldn't be able to get any grant funding for that.
Huh.
For a water and sewer project down in the bay like that.
Really?
So just to solely eat the whole cost of it, it was tens of millions of dollars in
bet.
order to accomplish that. But that was kind of preliminary estimates from engineers. So but I think we directed the town manager to say okay. Well, another revelation, we took over Route 36.
Oh, is that,
So
is that right?
officially
That's-
July 1st, it's ours.
Oh, really?
That's what Sean told us last night.
Wow.
So now we don't really have to go
Yeah.
through the agency of transportation on any of those projects or
Yeah.
anything. But so with the CHIP program, we could leverage the housing and do commercial with it,
Yeah.
and leverage that program in order to do water and sewer.
It's taking over all of Route 36, or just a section of it in the bay, or?
From the, I think it starts right around the VFW area
Huh.
on Lake Street, and it goes all the way to Black Bridge.
No, oh,
Yeah, the
really?
entire
Interesting.
thing, yeah.
So good news. You've been hoping to pull that off for a while?
Yeah, we bet. Yeah, because there's always the intersection by the Bay Store that
Yeah.
we want to do something with. There's the parking on each side of it that we need to address. Like we tried
Yeah.
to get the stones moved. The state didn't want to move the
No,
stones,
really?
but we're
So you'll probably do that?
we
so
talked about it last night.
people can park off the-
Yes,
off the road.
we're gonna start making it.
Interesting.
Because it's tight down there, and it drives people away. Not drive, but it keeps them,
Sure.
out of the air. They're like, I'm not dealing with the traffic. It's tight
Yeah.
right there. So
No, it is tight. I went by there the other day with about
Yeah.
10 mostly pickup trucks, just, parked back towards the bay park and stuff, and it is a little tight when
Yeah,
they're
it
parking
is.
along there.
So I think in the near future you're going to see some improvements there, and we're going to look into improving that intersection. 'Cause
Yeah.
we had somebody come down to public comment last night and said car went from Route 36 and went or off Georgia Shore into 36,
Really?
never even stopped for the stop sign.
Really?
'Cause the stop sign's buried.
Yeah.
It's kind of behind the restaurant, and
Yeah.
it's kind of logistically that intersection isn't
Huh.
the best thing to travel through.
Yeah, pretty busy area. A friend of
Yeah.
mine said, I guess, one of the schools, State Tech probably had a field trip down there. I guess
Yeah.
they let the kids go to the creamy stand. Just said there were just a lot of kids. Sounds like the creamy stand and the Bay Store and restaurant all do pretty well down
Yep,
there.
they do.
Pretty busy place.
Yeah.
And the former Public Works garage, you're still working on a future use for that?
Yeah,
A boat access, or at least a kayak access?
primarily, I think. Well, I see. I don't understand why everybody is so up in arms about the kayak access because we
And
basically.
why would they be up in arms about that?
Because I don't know. I don't know if they think like motorboats are polluting the lake by like I don't understand it. But when I first heard about it, I said the area needs a boat launch. Like you go to Hathaway Point on any given
Sure.
weekend,
Another
you'll see
another
that.
not good situation.
Can we incorporate a kayak something in there? Probably, but we have plenty of real estate to do that at the Bay Park already.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why?
Huh.
So last time we spoke with the town manager about it, we said, go ahead and move forward with engineering and cost and see what you can come up with
Yeah.
to move forward with the boat launch, which I believe that was option one, because not Stantec, VHB gave us 3 different options, conceptual options. It was put in the paper, but a lot of people were like, well, you don't want to do this. It was just conceptual, They
Yeah.
were like, oh, you can't turn a boat. It was conceptual, But I think the board, as it sits right now, wants a boat launch.
Yeah. Certainly sounds like the town intends to keep the property. No talk of selling the property at this point.
I don't think we'd sell that property.
Yeah.
As a board, I don't think we would right now. We're actually leasing the orange garage to,
Oh, yeah?
yeah, and it's not Consolidated Communications, but it's, maybe it's Fidium. They're doing some fiber throughout. They're storing their stuff. They're kind of using that as like
Yeah.
just a station where they can store everything.
Interesting. Old Stone House, and any news to report on that? Of course, you're running into just a slate roof issue and how you
Yeah,
can't-
well, yeah, that's been the issue for
Forever.
the 6 years I've been on the board.
Wow.
But, so, we talked as a group, and Sean reached out. This has been a little while, like 6 months or so, to
Yeah.
Last Genghis, and he's working on a design and what we can possibly do with that building. Because you're limited. The building was designed to be a bathhouse.
Right.
Not much more than that.
Right.
The ceilings are short and the wings, like it's just.
Yeah.
And we talked to the state about, doing some cupola type stuff,
Huh.
here and there, and they were totally against that. They
Really?
didn't want nothing to do with it. So Laz is gonna give us some options and we'll go from there.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like there was some talk about ideally maybe making it a year-round building, but that sounds pretty dubious that would happen, or does that still get talked about?
I don't know, and I've said it, and I believe I said it in open session, like, to what I would like to see, and this
Yeah.
is just my own opinion,
Yeah.
not the board's view,
Yeah.
is something like the Greg Brown Lodge, but have it where the band is right now, have the
Yeah.
building there,
Huh.
and have the
You
audience
mentioned that
per se,
before, so you
it'd
just
be
have a much
great.
better look at the lake.
Yeah, you could open up the doors, and if weather didn't permit, you shut the glass door. Like it'd be I think that would really draw people there.
Huh.
Because you could watch the water, watch the sunset.
Yeah. Interesting. Could you ever think about moving the building, or is that the last thing? Literally moving the building over to where the band plays,
Well, I don't know if you'd move the building, but
Yeah.
we've
but just maybe another building.
another building and like reuse the stone from it.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's kind of the stone house is kind of
Yeah.
when we talk about the bay, the stone house comes up at one point in time. So
Yeah.
I don't really want to get rid of it completely, but
Yeah.
Laz will tell us our options and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
He might come up with something really great. And that's what we'll do.
Interesting. New firehouse, that's certainly been talked about. Is there kind of a committee? Is there a group looking at that, Jonathan? Or talking a clear need for a new fire department headquarters at some point?
Yeah, that was a cheaper style building when that was erected.
Yeah.
It's a term Butler Building. It's just a company
Oh, yeah,
name.
Butler
but
Building.
Yeah, it's like a steel structure.
Yeah.
I forget the actual name of that one,
Huh.
but yeah, it's still in the works. I think it's been put on hold a little bit because of some other things that the town manager has been working on.
Yeah.
But it's definitely not gone away. It's you're going to see it sooner than later.
Yeah, and you think on the same site, I guess the question is, have you got enough room on the same site, or you're gonna maybe try to buy some adjoining property?
I think we'd buy some property from the cemetery
Yeah.
commission that owns that strip through there. Because we only own like a little, whatever that building
Oh,
and
yeah.
parking lot is, all
Really?
the town owns there, yeah.
But again, that looks like no reason to think anything's happening on that front this year. It's down the road a
No,
ways.
I don't think we'll see it this year,
Yeah.
no, unfortunately.
Any new projects you're working on in the town? Any kind of big new things?
Nothing that really, that's like, it's just kind of the same stuff, nothing that's like really coming to the head of the list. And
Yeah.
we have a laundry list of stuff we'd like to do, as
Yeah.
every other town does, but
Yeah.
we're dealing with the stormwater Clyde Allen's coming up soon. So that's another project. So we got a lot of, the Tanglewoods, I think's been a little challenging, but
Yeah.
and it's our first big project, so
Yeah.
you know, it just everybody's getting their feet wet with the first one.
Well, your stormwater projects, you've told me before, and aren't you in the 20s? And just have like a couple dozen of them, a couple dozen or so?
Yeah, and that over time the list
Over
keeps
time.
growing, and
Right. Is that right? It keeps growing.
it keeps growing. Well, and then we just found out 2 meetings ago, the town manager told us that like when we take over roads, then we take over their stormwater pond too,
Wow.
in perpetuity. And I'm like, well,
Wow.
I didn't realize the town was signing up for that.
Really?
Like we never discussed that. I said, so how does that affect our stormwater budget?
Yeah.
Because we have a certain amount of projects we'd like to get done in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
You know, if we add, you know, all that maintenance, what does it do? You know, so we have to figure that out also.
Wow.
I guess that was something the state handed down.
And residents do pay. I'm a St. Albans City resident, and I pay kind of into that similar fund. There is a fund that people do pay into.
Yeah,
every year.
residences are a flat fee of $50.
Oh, is that right? Flat
Yeah,
fee of $50.
Flat fee, and then businesses are different based on what they have for storm water,
Huh.
what they have for impervious surface.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like one of the biggest. Boy, you have a bunch of those projects. So you get some outside funding for that, but is that sometimes never clear how much outside funding you're getting for those projects?
We get very little.
Get very little. In
Very
fact, I know
little
you
to
talked to
none.
the legislators about that.
Yeah, they kind of, no, not happening.
Is that right? Very, very little. So this
Yeah.
is mostly your town money.
It's town money plus what the HOAs from
Okay.
they give us.
Huh.
There is some little bit of grant money, but far as like state allocated money, there's
Wow.
nothing.
Wow.
But with that fee that we charge, but if we don't do it, we don't comply with our MS4 permit, and then we end up, people can start getting, when they go to sell their house, they won't be able to get a complete title,
Really?
so
Huh.
we got to kind of stay ahead of it, because
Huh.
when it first came out, I voted against the stormwater ordinance.
Huh.
But, the rest of the board wanted to go with it, so, we're trying to do the best we can,
Yeah.
because I hate, sending people another $50 bill on top of their tax bill.
Yeah.
But, if the government forces us to do it, then,
Yeah.
because we got to fund it,
Yeah.
so that's where we are.
Speaking of tax bills, again, longtime St. Albans City resident, city just went through a reappraisal. And boy, I think I have pretty much a very average, pretty much a dead average house in the city. And I went up more than doubling my, and I guess I was pretty typical. I guess the city averaged almost doubling the tax appraisals. Is the town, you looking at a reappraisal at some point, or is that hasn't started? Do you need a reappraisal?
Well,
City definitely, it sounds like.
Technically,
A lot of places do.
we did, but the state, I remember Sean telling it, I said, well, because we were at like 79. It used to be when you're 85% CLA, whatever, then it triggered an automatic reappraisal. We
Yeah.
have the funds to do it.
Yeah.
We have its own reappraisal fund.
Huh.
And it got to like 80 and then 79. And then Sean told us the state put it on hold because the state was going to do something with the assessments, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't know if that's still, or if that
Huh.
was supposed to be in some kind of a bill or something, I don't know.
Huh. So you're not moving on a reappraisal at this point?
No, we talked about, and I can't remember if we talked about with Sean, just get it ready on the radar that we'll have to go out to bid for the process, and, you know, we better start looking at it
Well,
because.
really, finding a firm, that sounds like a ton of folks in Vermont are going through reappraisals.
Yeah, it's like a 2-year wait list, so I think,
Wow.
plus, so I think
Yeah.
the state was saying, okay, what can we do to get these assessments together? I
Yeah.
don't know what they came up with.
Yeah. Again, June 17, we're taping this show, the end of the fiscal year, just a couple weeks away. Town in decent financial shape as you're about to end the fiscal year 2025.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. Everything looks good.
yeah,
Yeah, no big issues.
yeah.
Mm.
And St. Albans PD, of course, has been back in the town for almost a year now.
Yep.
How do you think that's gone?
You know, with the street crimes unit back,
Yeah.
I think that's helped. I don't know the numbers or anything like that, but
Yeah.
you can just visibly you can see a difference.
Is that right?
You know,
more of a presence.
Yeah, more
than the
of a
sheriffs?
more of a presence throughout the town and the city. I mean, I live in the town. I drive
Yeah.
through the city
Sure, every day.
hourly. It seems like I'm always in my vehicle driving around, and it's definitely helped for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah, what a big difference.
And there are a couple kind of police committees. Are they still active? I think there are two different kind of police advisory boards or whatever they are. Or
I think the city still has their advisory
Yeah.
board. We don't officially have
don't
one
have
in
one?
the town. No, we
Huh.
disbanded that a
Yeah.
while ago. And yeah, there wasn't talk about doing another one. I think there
Huh.
was some scuttle about, you know, once the terms are up on the city one, maybe the town
Yeah.
and city can get together and have one
Huh.
together at some point. But
do you get some data? Do you get information from City PD? Does Chief ever meet with you guys or anybody on that? Or
yeah, he came down. It was a little while ago,
Yeah.
but I'm sure we'll invite him down here in a few months.
Yeah. But that seemed you're pretty comfortable with the City PD coverage of the
Yeah.
town.
Yeah. Oh, he did give the info to when they had their the Joint Police Advisory Board that, you know, sets the budget and stuff
Yeah.
like that. They meet
Yeah.
it was a couple months ago. Brian Delorier and Jack
Okay.
Brigham
Okay.
went to that, and they gave us some valuable feedback.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And staffing, it sounds like City PD is doing apparently pretty well
Yeah,
staffing.
I believe they're full staff.
Wow,
What
if
I've
that's the
been told.
case, you're doing
Yeah.
a lot better than a lot
Yeah.
of folks.
Yeah, and you know, it costs real money. That's why our share of
Yeah.
the police budget was $2.5
Sure.
million.
City budget was definitely up largely because of the
Yeah.
increase in, I mean, just trying to keep officers, obviously.
Yeah,
Boy,
the
Boy, if
retainage.
you're a police officer out there, you probably have your pick of a lot of jobs.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure it's tough to retain officers, and just recruiting officers is another
Right.
thing. And
Very
trying
tough.
to get them through the academy and keep them have them stay through the whole
Yeah.
it's just, yeah.
Yeah. LOT, the local option tax money, you certainly made good use of that in the town. I mean, paying for the relatively new town hall, relatively new public works garage. You have a fair amount of money. Any thoughts on what to use the money that you keep accumulating?
Yeah, so today I think we have between $2.5 and $3 million in there.
Do you really?
Yeah, something
Wow.
something along those lines.
Wow.
Because we get like $1.1 million a year from it,
Do you
and
really?
it keeps going up. Like it's
Yeah.
steadily. We were just a few years ago. We were like at 800,000. Now
Wow.
we're like 1.1.
So over $1 million.
Yeah, so it's a little over $1 million, which is great. But
Huh.
we will be paying for a majority of the fire department building with that money. I
Yeah.
know we've talked about that.
Huh.
Nothing set in stone, but
Yeah.
we definitely talked about that. We talked about maybe some money to do the engineering for the water and sewer extension
Yeah.
down into the Bay Area. So we got uses for the money. We just haven't pulled the trigger on too much yet. We haven't had like
Yeah.
final engineering done for those projects.
Yeah.
It's kind of what we're waiting for, and then make
Yeah.
the decision.
Nice to have some bucks accumulating, obviously. For
Yeah, it's not
whatever
a
you
bad
need.
problem to have.
Yeah.
But at some point, and I've said it, if we're gonna keep collecting money, we need to start using the money
Yeah.
that we're collecting. We can't just
Yeah.
put it in the bank.
The issue comes up, or came up a few years ago, and voters turned it down at one point, but a rec path or sidewalk from from Satec to Collins Pearly. That's still getting some attention.
That's still, yeah, I believe
Just
Megan.
crossing the highway sounds like it's been the key issue
That's the
there.
key issue, yeah. And there was another property somewhere along the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was some easement thing or something they were working through, but that's still ongoing.
Yeah.
That health path,
Huh.
that's still ongoing.
So, I mean, they were talking about a tunnel or an overpass or something. I mean, we're talking serious bucks for.
Yeah, crossing the Sash is always the
Yeah.
issue. Like, how do you get across it? But there's going to be some stormwater projects up there at some
Oh,
point,
really?
and maybe we can incorporate that into that project also. I don't know.
Jonathan, any talk on, maybe I ask about it once in a while, I never hear anything, merging the town and city fire departments? That ever come up, or no, not much? You have the same fire chief, of course, for both departments.
Yeah.
now, right?
Matt
Not-
does
not
a great
only-
job facilitating
Yeah.
both departments, and there was some discussion about it, and I think both parties agreed it wasn't beneficial for.
Things
either
seem to be
party at the
working out
time.
okay.
Yeah,
now,
it,
I
it
guess, huh?
seems so. It
Yeah.
seems so. I think the staffing levels aren't what they used to be, but
Yeah, but
it's
not
enough
too,
to,
not too
yeah.
bad.
And with the mutual aid, they help each other out. We're not
Yeah.
like a dividing line between. They all
Yeah.
help each other out.
Yeah.
Each town.
There was some effort being given, again, walkability, whatever you call it, on Route 7 North to see if you could come up with a sidewalk or something on Route 7 North. Is that still getting looked at? Boy, it'd be great if you could ever pull that
I believe
off.
so. I believe it. They're still looking at it, and again, that's with Megan Sherlin, Community Development Director,
Yeah.
and they're still looking into it.
Yeah,
And I think they might have. I think they haven't gave us the whole full design of it yet.
Yeah.
But it's still a possibility
yeah.
as long as we can keep the cost at affordable cost.
Yeah. Any news of note coming out of St. Albans Town and Industrial Park? Any new business news or anything? You still have some room in there, right?
Yeah, there's a few spots in there. Tim came down, probably Tim Smith,
Yeah.
the director.
Yeah.
He came down a couple months ago, and I think he said maybe they sold another lot, or they had a purchase and sales agreement on a lot in there,
Yeah.
but I don't know the status of it today.
Yeah. And Beta Technologies has a presence at least. Yeah. That obviously at the old Energizer plant.
Yep.
Hopefully down the road that'll get some numbers up. I think it's not too much at this point, but good to see a future use out there. Obviously.
Yeah, I think once they get their planes going and actually
Yeah.
using them, I think it'll kick off. Up
Yeah.
there.
Boy, because there's certainly been some not good news on kind of news like that. Perigo in Georgia, heading out in a few years, and the Railroad Dispatch Center in the city, nice new building, and it sounds like they're Jacksonville, Florida bound.
Yeah.
And I guess some I guess in that case got down to apparently just not finding enough employees and stuff.
Yeah.
Boy,
But then it go right back to the housing thing, right?
Yeah.
You need housing for everyone.
Yeah.
It's just not low income, it's not high income,
Yeah.
it's for everyone.
yeah.
You know.
Any housing initiatives? The city certainly, Cathedral Square is coming up on Lower Newton Street in the city. 175 Lake Street is now open, the big apartment building
Yeah.
there. Although I guess they have a number of apartments not vacant at this point.
Oh, yeah.
Apparently.
Huh.
I guess apparently, and I'm not totally on top of that, but I guess with some outside funding, just different guidelines they have to meet and who they can
Yeah.
rent it out to.
Yep. Yeah.
And the city's also looking at another project near Cathedral Square. But anything in St. Albans town itself on any major housing initiatives?
I don't think there's any major ones, but,
Again, septic comes to mind, obviously, without municipal sewer, that's going to be a
right, well,
hindrance there.
right, like the Westview condominiums that are in the town, those
Yeah.
are, that brought quite a few. I forget the numbers of the units, but
Yeah.
then the ones over on Fairfax Street, there's 3 big buildings over there.
Yeah,
I don't recall any big buildings like that coming into
Yeah.
the town, but there's still there's the lot just across the Route 7 over here. They're like 10 triplexes across
no,
the
really.
street. Yeah.
So some
So
activity.
yeah, there's some activity. It's not these big buildings, but we
Yeah.
do have private people doing duplexes and tris and
Yeah.
quads and stuff.
On that note, we got to call it a day. Thanks to Jonathan Giroux, the St. Albans Town Select Board
Thank you.
Chairman. Thanks for your time, Jonathan.
Thanks.
Thanks to producer Alan Cunningham. I'm Richard Cowperthwait. Thanks for joining us here on Northwest Access TV. See you next time.